Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. In this video, I want to help everybody understand exactly what Icache is and what it means for us, the players. So, as usual, a big thank you to all of my patrons and channel members who allow me to make these videos. In particular to my new channel members, Stephen French, Christopher Day, JDoggy1, and 3 Kings for rejoining. Thank you all so much for the support. So with all this talk and progress being done with the backend tech, I thought it would be a good idea to explain exactly what each of these services and systems are in their simplest forms to help everybody understand what it means. Sometimes when Cloud Imperium explain what they are doing, it is not always easy to digest, in particular on the front end, so what we as the player actually see in game. Today we're going to start with the Icache, and I'll try to clarify what the Icache is, why it's important, and what it means in terms of the game, and I'll include some examples of future mechanics that this opens the door to later on. So firstly, let's just look at what the Icache is. In its simplest form, it is a querying system dealing with all the requests and updates to and from the database. So to explain how this works, we need to first look at what is happening in Star Citizen right now, why the system now fails, and why the Icache is needed. At the moment in Star Citizen, it has no persistence when it comes to world items. This is because of what they call a scaling issue. The database for Star Citizen at the moment is built for a set amount of players with almost no scaling capabilities. To make this game playable, or playable-ish right now, it will only track the items that you as the player interact with or have placed within your personal items like your ship, storage on your armor, or your inventory. So for example, let's say you grab a bottle of water from New Babbage and you take that to your ship, you place that bottle inside your ship and then fly around and then log off. At this point, the water bottle becomes part of that ship's save state, so it is written into the database. The next time that you spawn your ship, the entity spawn manager requests the data for the state of your ship, and the water bottle was part of that, so it spawned in with your ship. Now this is how it normally should function now, but as many of you know, this cannot always be the case, so let's look at why this is. It is because the database can't scale and there is only so much data that can be written onto it. So when that data exceeds capacity, the database will then begin to erase data to keep itself working. If that fails, all hell then breaks loose and the database will just fail, like what we have seen with new patch launches. And also a good example of this is the Invictus week for 3.9's release. The database was just not able to hold that many players and it pretty much collapsed right after launch. So Star Citizen obviously needs a good solution to this. It needs a database that is able to expand and keep expanding without having to deal with heavy memory load on the server, while being able to track all items across the whole game world. Now this seems like an almost impossible thing to do, even with a highly scalable database, so solutions were needed to be found. The solution is the shard system, and how this works is Star Citizen will give each shard its own database. We'll give you an example, but do keep in mind that the size of each shard will be determined by Cloud Imperium and what they think is best, and a size could be a whole planet, a landing location, or even a ship. There is no limit, but the more shards there are, the more potential issues and complex it gets. For this example, let's say 2 planets have their own landing zones like Hurston and Area 18. Hurston will be shard A1 and Area 18 will be shard A2. So Hurston's shard, A1, will hold all the items that is currently part of that shard, so everything on that world is in that database. This could be your ship which is stored there, it could be a mug on the planet, and so on and so forth. Literally every item of that planet is part of that shard. Then let's say we buy some food, a drink and a weapon and leave Hurston and visit Area 18. Now at this point you are taking items away from the A1 shard and placing them within the other shard being A2 at Area 18. So they get erased from the A1 Hurston database and are then placed into the A2 Area 18 database. It's as simple as that. Now this would normally create a lot of issues as your client service can't just ask the status of an item that's not within your shard. So for example, if you're on Area 18 but you have items in Hurston, then this is where the Icache needs to come in. The Icache sits between you, the player, and the shards. Think of it as a Google for the database. Basically, each shard has its own server, as in server meshing, and this means shards are connected to each other and can have a front-end service to regulate this. Then every update you as a client requests will be handled by Icache. The Icache will then search the items within each shard and come back to you with the answer. It will also determine what can be written in and out by the database, what needs to be transferred, or whether it's important. So how will this improve Star Citizen, and can it still overload? So yes, it can overload, but a lot less than what we have seen. Number one, firstly, the database is self-regulating, which means items go in and out of each shard. These items can be logged in, but also a lot of them are logged out and transferred. And number two, each shard has its own power thanks to server meshing. So memory hogging, like what we have now, won't be an issue. A lot of people thought object container streaming and server-side object container streaming would fix this, but it actually has nothing to do with it. So now we know how it all works. Here is an example of how it would come into play. Let's say you spawn at Hurston. The Hurston database will spawn everything that you need to see and what is part of that shard at that moment. Your client will then request the Icache and spawn your items. Icache will then look into the database will respond, and the services needing this info will do the rest. Let's say you left a box outside of your door yesterday for someone to pick up. You look and it's no longer there today. This means that someone took it and they changed the state of that item, which could be anywhere, even 10 systems away, and placed on a planet somewhere, which means it is no longer part of the Hurston shard anymore. Now what's most exciting is that this is full persistence and paves the way for much deeper gameplay and systems. Things like physical inventories, physicalized cargo, physical and persistent damage and wear and tear on your ships, armor, weapons, items. It's also needed for salvaging and base building and finite planetary resources like mineable assets. Now that's not to say that all of this will come straight away once the Icache is fully implemented. The gameplay for this will still need to be made, of course, but a lot of these systems and mechanics are well underway and getting prepared for when the time comes. I think systems like physical inventories and cargo will be two of the earliest features that we get, with other systems like salvaging and base building most likely coming a bit later on, like next year, but it will make all of this possible, which is a very exciting concept. Now obviously we have no idea when full persistence will actually make it into the game. It is looking promising for this year with all the progress they've been making, and we are now already in September, so there's only a few months left of this year. But with that said, do let me know if there's anything I missed off, and I hope that this really helped to explain and give more understanding as to what the Icache is and how it will actually affect us, the players. I will be doing follow-up videos breaking down other pieces of backend tech like server meshing, so make sure that you subscribe for that if you want to keep up with it all. And this video was actually made possible by a good friend of mine who helped explain it all to me and practically wrote this video, so a big thank you to him for not only helping me to understand, but hopefully helping many of you too as well. But with that said, make sure you tick that notification bell if you want to be notified every time my videos go live. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it that thumbs up. Do come and hang out on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers Ryan. Thank you again to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.